Peter Curtin was convicted of 9 counts of murder and 7 counts of attempted murder. He was sentenced to death in April of 1931 and subsequently executed in July of 1931 by beheading. His creepy final last words were, "Tell me, after my head has been chopped off, will I still be able to hear, at least for a moment, the sound of my own blood gushing from the stump of my neck? That would be a pleasure to end all pleasures." Bernard Harris was convicted of murder after he shot a man in the face and was sentenced to death on July 30th, 1990. He was executed on September 13th, 2000 by lethal injection. There were some factors of his case that could have yielded a lesser sentence for Harris, but ultimately he ended up getting the death penalty, and his last words were, "Somebody needs to kill my trial attorney." George Apple was convicted of murder after he killed an officer in New York City. He was sentenced to death and executed on August 9th, 1928 by electric chair. As he was being placed into the chair and prepared for execution, his last statement was, "Well, gentlemen, you are about to see a baked apple." James French was convicted of killing a motorist while hitchhiking. He received a life sentence. It is said that he wanted to commit suicide, however, he really didn't have the guts to kill himself, so instead of committing suicide, he decided to kill his cellmate to receive a death penalty, and he was sentenced and executed on August 10th, 1966 by electric chair. When his final words were, "How's this for a headline? French fries." George Engle was convicted of conspiracy in the Haymarket Square bombings, along with 3 other people, after he had attended a meeting the night before the attack. He was arrested on May 4th, 1886, and executed on November 11th, 1887 by hanging. His final words were, "Hooray for anarchy, this is the happiest moment of my life." Thomas Grasso was sentenced to 20 years to life on April 21st, 1992, after he had killed 2 elderly people. He strangled an 87-year-old woman using her Christmas tree lights. In 1990, he stole $8 from her purse, $4 in loose change, and her TV set, which he later sold for $125. Less than a year later, he had moved back to New York with his wife and murdered Leslie, an 81-year-old man, and stole his Social Security check in 1991. Because his sentence was only 20 years to life, the New York legislature had just recently passed legislation that stated that the state's death penalty could be used. So because of this, Thomas Grasso was basically sentenced to death and executed by lethal injection on March 20th, 1995 for both of the murders. As his last meal, he requested 2 dozen steamed mussels, 2 dozen steamed clams, a double cheeseburger from Burger King, a half-dozen barbecued spare ribs, 2 strawberry milkshakes, a half of pumpkin pie with whipped cream, diced strawberries, and he requested a can of SpaghettiOs. However, his final statement was, "I did not get my SpaghettiOs, I got spaghetti. I want the press to know this." Jonathan Green was convicted of the abduction, rape, and murder of a 12-year-old girl. He was sentenced to death on July 17, 2002, and was later executed by lethal injection on October 10, 2012. He was originally asked if he had any last words to say, and he originally answered no. But a few seconds later, he stated, "I am an innocent man. I did not kill anyone. Y'all are killing an innocent man." Shortly after this, the lethal injection was provided, and he stated, "My left arm is killing me. It hurts bad." A few minutes later, he had gone unconscious. Clarence Ray Allen was serving a life sentence for a murder that he had previously committed when he was convicted of organizing the murder of 3 people. He was sentenced for the 3 murders on November 22nd, 1980, and later executed 26 years later by lethal injection on January 17, 2006. His last words were, "My last words will be, Hoka hey. It's a good day to die." Vincent Gutierrez was convicted of the murder of an Air Force officer during a carjacking. He was sentenced to death on March 6, 1998, but later executed on March 28, 2007 by lethal injection, and his last words were, "Where's my stunt double when you need one?" In 1928, Panzram was arrested for burglary and confessed to killing 2 boys during the interrogation. In light of his criminal record, he received only 25 years to life for the burglary, but not for the murders of the 2 boys. And as he entered Fort Leavenworth, which he had been to previously, for 2 years for a similar crime, he warned the warden that he would kill the first person that bothered him. He was given a solitary job in the prison laundry room. However, in 1929, he beat the laundry foreman to death with an iron bar and was sentenced to death. Before Panzram was executed, he kept several transcripts of his confessions and basically his life and his time in prison. And one of these transcripts read, "In my lifetime, I have murdered 21 human beings. I have committed thousands of burglaries, robberies, larcenies, arsons, and last but not least, I have committed sodomy on more than 1,000 male human beings. For all these things, I am not the least bit sorry." Upon further investigation, a few of the murders that Panzram had confessed to were confirmed. However, there were a lot of his crimes that he stated he had committed that had not been confirmed. And ultimately, Panzram was executed by hanging on September 5th, 1930. And his last words were, "Hurry up, you bastard. I could kill a dozen men while you're screwing around."